Hello and welcome to another episode of Reviews on the Couch, where we discuss movies, how they made us feel, and lessons we can pick from them. My name is Elsie Godwin. If this is your first time of visiting my YouTube channel, kindly subscribe to this channel by clicking the subscribe button below and also hit the bell button so you get notified each time there is a new content. Thank you. On this episode, we're discussing a 2021 mystery drama titled The Woman in the Window. This movie is definitely going to usher us into a mental health conversation as it tries to portray a certain mental health condition in the best way possible. And joining me on this episode to discuss this is the co-founder of Mentally Aware Nigeria and the medical doctor, Dr. Iyewande Dipeolu-Dada. And of course, for the second time, I have one of the foremost film critic and analyst from Nigeria, because at the moment he's not in Nigeria, Wilfred Okichie. They'll be joining me right after this break. Thank you guys for joining me one day and Wilfred. So this conversation is definitely going to go towards mental health, but first and foremost, we'll talk about the movie and how it made us feel. And of course, Wilfred is going to cover that aspect for us. And one day is definitely going to cover the mental health aspect for us. So I'll start with Wilfred. How did this movie make you feel? What would you talk about the casting, the storyline, and in general, how would you rate it?
Okay, I think that it's an efficient movie in terms of, the genre that was, it was supposed to be in a thriller. Um, I didn't love it. I, I think that it was adept. It got the job done, but it was also trying to be more because the director was trying to be more serious than the screenplay, allowed him to be. So there were a lot of visual flourishes that he was doing, even the way that they were holding the camera, the way that he was trying to put us in the woman's state of mind, and even the throwback to, old movies of that style, you know, but the story of this particular one was pretty basic and is very plot driven. Who you have an unreliable narrator. Is she crazy? How much of what she's saying is true? Is it just in her mind? It's, if you watch a lot of those kind of films, you sort of um predict it. It's like in the tradition of films like Gone Girl, those kind of Girl on the Train.
Machinist.
And this one, The Woman in the Window. So it's not particularly original, but so the director and the script I find is very, very basic. But the director found a way to make it more interesting using all those visual, stylistic flourishes that he applied. And then the acting also was quite strong. But I don't. It's not a film I would take too seriously.
Did you say it's not a film you take too seriously?
By
No,
what
I
I
understand
what
what
I
he's saying anyway.
did you say?
I say I understand what he's saying. Like I understand what you're saying,
Oh, okay.
Wilfred.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
fun. It's a film that you watch and it's good for a few scares, but it's not a film that you would go back and think and remember in the way that we still remember, say, a Gone Girl today. It's quite forgettable, really. That's what I mean.
yeah, it was a forgettable movie because there's nothing new with that storyline. But it was enjoyable for me because of the mental health story it was trying to tell and um, making it more about the lady's point of view. If you've seen A Beautiful Mind, you would see what they were trying to do. Like, I think the director watched A Beautiful Mind for a while and then tried to add some of the dramatics and the directing style from there into this movie. And I was able to see a lot of things from her point of view and see a lot of um, challenges that people around people suffering with mental health issues, people living with mental health issues, their loved ones kind of problems they have to deal with and problems the society also has to deal with, whether to believe them or to just assume they're hallucinating because we know that they have a condition. So that those stories, those were the parts of it that I really enjoyed. And yeah, I'll give it maybe like a 6. It was an okay movie. It was enjoyable for me. I still don't see the parts where you say it was scary because it wasn't.
No,
It was
not
just a
scary
thriller.
physically. It was a mental scary thing, which is where I'm getting to. In
Okay.
terms of, I've seen Joker, I've
Okay.
seen this one now, the woman in the window,
Uh-huh.
and when I see movies like that, um, for me, watching movies is about storytelling and me understanding what they're trying to pass. So I
Uh-huh.
understood that this is somebody's life, this is somebody's mental health that we're talking
Yeah.
about, that is this fragile and not dependable. And it,
Uh-huh.
it, it makes me wonder, looking at a movie like Joker and looking at this particular movie, I mean, there are a lot of them, but this too, is this how deep it can get when it comes to mental health issues?
Okay, so I'll say it can get that deep, and most of the times it's way deeper because
Wow.
you on the outside don't know what's going on in this person's head. And them on the inside, they're trying so hard to explain to you that this is what's going on with me. This is my experience. But a lot of us, unknowingly, and because of the kind of society we live in, we have stigma. Like we have a lot of ignorance, we have a lot of stigma, like rooted in our minds. So when these people are trying to explain themselves or trying to let you know, okay, so this is what's going on with me, you're like, this person is just crazy, basically. How are we sure this is really happening? And so this further like validates to them that okay, there's nothing I'm going to say that is going to be taken serious. I'm a really crazy person. And then they most of the time it makes them stop wanting to seek help. Like in this woman's case, you saw her that she was just like, oh, nobody really cares. Everybody's assuming that this is what's going on. So I might as well just take my pills with alcohol as many times as I want. After all, I'm hallucinating. The hallucinations cannot get any worse. So it's actually really deep, and it's unfortunate that they are not taken as seriously as they should be taken. And so I like that the movie was able to show us the point of view of someone that's suffering with a mental illness.
If there's one thing that the film did well, actually, it was the portrayal of, the woman's mental health. It's many times films just tell you that this person is crazy, and then there's the actor is acting out the crazy, and then you can tell that this person is crazy. But in this one, the director wanted you to sit inside the woman's state
Mind.
of mind, so with the visual choices that he made, with the structural choices, even with the house. So you can see the house is big, but it also seems
Really small.
claustrophobic in that she's trapped there. So you're also trapped there
Hmm.
with her. They didn't have many exterior shots. Almost everything happened, within these closed spaces. So they wanted you to like sort of have a feeling of what this lady is going through. And even the way that he holds the camera, the way that he moves, when someone comes in, another person comes in, it's like, what is going on? Is this for real? Would people enter like this? When by the time her neighbors started coming in with the policemen, there was that scene where they were showing all those people, it was like,
Hmm.
is it not too much for
For
this
her.
woman, that doesn't like to go outside, that doesn't like to interact with people? So you
Oh,
feel trapped. I feel like that's the strongest part of the movie for me,
yeah.
the way that, they sort of depicted, her mental health.
That part you just described was very, very, very interesting because all of them felt like she did not like to come outside. Not that, but the thing is not that she did not like to come outside. She could not
She just
come
couldn't.
outside. Like she just couldn't. And so
Hmm.
that is the illness part of it. Like everybody was just like, oh, you don't like to go outside. And she's like,
Hmm.
no, it's not that I don't want to go outside. I really want to go outside like everybody else. I just can't. And then having all those people in her house was, I liked that part, Sha. I think That was the most important scene in the movie.
And talking about that particular mental health issue, that's the first time I heard about it in that movie, and it was interesting. But I'm taking it back to the conversation between her, the main cast, and Julianna Moore, the lady who went missing. And so I like to say that I am interested in mental health advocacy, and I do the bit I can do, yeah. But I know that I do not fully understand it. I know that. So I try to. But while I was watching that conversation, within me, I knew that she was saying some things that she shouldn't be saying to somebody who has explained to you that this is the condition I have. I don't know if it's just me or, So in dealing with people with mental health issues, maybe not exactly to that level, what would you advise, or how would you advise that we behave around them? What should be said? What shouldn't be said? How do we make them understand that we hear them and we feel them, even if we don't necessarily understand them or can be in their shoes, but we understand that there's something going on?
Okay, so like what the lady did in that movie, that's like the
Mm-hmm.
first thing you should not do, or those are the most important things you should not do to someone that has a mental illness. Try to validate their feelings. Try to let them understand that, okay, I don't know what you're going through, but I just want to help. If possible, if you do not know so much about the condition, please don't say anything about it. Don't say, oh, it's just depression, or no, it's anxiety, there's no big deal. Stay clear of that. Empathize with them is different from sympathizing and saying, oh, sorry, you have this. Empathize. Try to put yourself in their shoes. It's really hard to say, oh, don't say this to this person, don't say that. There are so many things you don't need to say. Empathy is not just about feeling sorry for the person and trying to help, putting yourself in their shoes. Now, just imagine that your friend has depression, but then now imagine that you were the one that had depression. Imagine the kind of things you would not want anybody to say to you in that situation. That's simply it. Put yourself in their shoes and just try to imagine, okay, if I was struggling with an illness that nobody could see and they wanted to help me, what are the things I would not want them to say to me? And that would like alienate like 80% of the things you want to say, and you realize, okay, so these words would hurt me if someone said them to me. So, okay, I don't need to say it to this person. I just need to show them I care, learn. I don't know so much about what's going on with you, but I can learn about it so I can help you, or we can go together to see someone who might be able to answer our questions better. Or do you want me to accompany you to therapy, or what are you doing about it? What medication are you taking? Is there anything? Basically, asking them is even a better option. Ask them, is there anything you would like me to help you with? Because I don't understand so much about this condition and I don't know if I can help you, but you telling me how to help you would be much better, you know. So there's so many things you shouldn't say. It's all in your head. Get over it. Trust me, they already want to get over it. They've already tried everything they can to get over it. But it's not something that's so easy to just switch on and switch off. It's not like headache that you just take paracetamol and, ooh, the headache is gone. So empathize as much as you can. Learn as much as you can about their condition, if you can. And then encourage them to seek help. And even go the extra mile to go with them to seek help if you can. That's the best way, I think.
Okay, Wilfred, my next question will be to you, and it's basically to ask if you've ever had any personal experience with a mental health condition with anyone at all, and what would you say that did to your understanding of the situation?
Yes, sure. I have had a couple of experiences. There's a time I used to work in a clinic where we had a mental health, sub clinic, and I was practically running the clinic. We had a visiting psychiatrist, who used to come. But before we would invite her, I would, see the patients, try to get what's going on, have a working diagnosis before, we now invite the specialist. And it was one of the most, I would say, frustrating periods for me, because it just made it clear that there was so little that I could do really. There was people that I knew that their problems could be solved with this, not necessarily medication. Medication, yes, but also there was a whole social um, side going on, and it wasn't what I was able to provide, and wasn't what I could be able to provide. For instance, someone who's not speaking with his family and has schizophrenia. Anybody with schizophrenia knows that you must have a support. Managing schizophrenia knows you must have the support of the family, you know strong social support, and it was just not there. What was I going to do? How, there's only so much medication the specialist
Person
can
to have.
prescribe. Even when you need to be hospitalized, sometimes you can't even do that with this person. So it was really, 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 frustrating. But having said that, there were also um, cases where we helped, and they got better. It takes a lot of patience. I know I was tested during that period, because even myself, I had to check my bias or check my faults, because at some point I tend to lose patience, and I want to shout, but I'm like, why am I shouting at this person? He's helpless. They're helpless. They came to you for help. You're supposed to figure out how to help them, and shouting does not solve, because but it gets to you, at some point, at so many levels. And if you are not, there's we talk a lot about getting help, providing help, but the caregivers also need help themselves, especially if you're not trained properly, or trained in the way that mental health professionals should be trained. So it's like a cycle, particularly in Nigeria, where the mental health resource, human resource, is like abysmal. There are limited places where one can go, to get help. So I don't know. I don't want to be pessimistic, but it's hard, really. Someone like that lady now,
Yes.
getting help in Nigeria. Imagine,
Hmm.
the tall order
She'll
it would
probably
be. I
be
mean,
on the streets, not getting help,
or she
except
can't she can't
coming
go
from.
outside.
She can't go
Yeah.
outside,
She
unfortunately.
can't go
So
Oh,
outside.
that's their
So
wow,
home.
wow.
she'll probably be locked at home, just
Family would just lock her in a room and just be
exactly, and
okay.
chain her or something.
Hmm. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Interestingly, I didn't know about that experience before inviting Wilfred. I was totally expecting Wilfred to just talk from the film analyst and critic point of view, but thank you for sharing that. I think
Welcome.
everyone, even the person who is I'm going to be willing to say I want to do everything I can, not to maybe find a solution, but to be of whatever form of assistance they can, also need to be sure that they are also checking their own mental health as well before they fall into something they cannot understand. But moving away from that, I'll definitely be going back to one day. Let's touch on the society, the stigma, and people weaponizing it. So there is a character you mentioned to me on WhatsApp on in the movie that I'm trying to remember, the policeman,
Little, yeah,
who
the detective, little.
yes, he was very empathetic. He kind of understood that there could be more somewhere, and he was able to say, you know what, call me if you want to talk. But the other lady, I mean, I'm not blaming the other lady, she's playing her role, but that is the
She
typical
was just doing her job.
Nigerian human being. She was just doing her job and she didn't care. So how can we be better? How can we have more of the inspector who cared, and how can we reduce the possibility of weaponizing the stigma that comes with mental health issues?
Okay, so that's very hard. Let me see. Let's start from individuals. Individuals can try first to check their own stigma, to check their own bias when dealing with people with mental health issues. a lot of us already just have it in our head, or once you declare that you have any mental health problem, you're crazy. And so anything that person says to you is colored by that perception that they're not okay in the head. So check your bias as a person. Check that um, you're not actively pushing stigma. We found out, okay, so I work with Manny in Nigeria, and we found out that the reason why stigma and bias was being propagated was because people were ignorant. A lot of people don't know what mental health is, they don't know what mental illnesses are, and then they just assume, because even the media doesn't help by propagating different types of stigma through movies and all that. So as an individual, you need to check your bias. You need to constantly examine yourself that, oh, okay, I'm not making matters worse for these people. I'm as empathetic as possible. I like the way the Inspector Little made her feel seen. Everybody else was just ignoring her and saying, oh, she's a crazy person, she's on this, she's on that. But he kept trying to validate her feelings, kept trying to make her feel seen. Try to make sure people around you feel seen. Even if you can't do anything to help them, try to at least be a safe space for them, you know. Well, society, education, again, everybody needs to educate themselves about mental health, signs of mental illnesses, types of mental illnesses, and what it entails, the proper places to get help. Government needs to help us by creating proper policies that would increase access to mental health, provide protection for people living with mental illnesses, you know, that would reduce discrimination of people, because mental health on its own, mental illnesses can actually lead to disability. So government has to help us with instituting policies that would, first off, create a proper like mental health act, mental health policy, not what we're using that is still the Nancy Act. Make sure that all these policies are effected. Push for mental health education in schools. Private companies too can push for mental health advocacy, fund mental health facilities, employ more people to work in these facilities, because if there's access to care and there's nobody working in Nigeria, I think there were like 192 psychiatrists as at the last count in the whole country. And that number has reduced because Japa, and you can't blame people wanting a better life. So even if they fix up the mental health facilities, they need to also fix up manpower and all that. So it's a very long thing. So I'll just say individuals, try to be a safe space, try to be empathetic to people, try to put yourself in people's shoes. Don't be unnecessarily vicious, don't be unnecessarily biased. Be as kind as possible to people around you, because mental illnesses don't show on the face. They're just like HIV. Nobody knows who has it. And we all have mental health. So that means all of us have a chance of having a mental illness in our lifetime.
It's hard, so it's one thing to say, let's try and be kind and be empathetic, but it's really, really hard, dealing, because mental health is such that it's not a physical thing. It's not something you take Panadol for. You have a fever or you have a headache and it goes away. It's insidious, sometimes it crawls for a long time, and you find yourself, you know, slipping up. So it's not every day you're in the mood to be kind, even as a normal human being. It's not every day you're in the mood to be patient. Some days you just want to, get it snapping and make it snappy. And yeah, but you always constantly have to remind yourself, take a deep breath that this person is going through something. And it helps when, the person has gotten some form of medical care, because then you are able to name it. Because, the thing with Nigerians, if you don't name something, then it doesn't exist. So going to seeking medical help helps you to at least, so when you understand that this person has agoraphobia, for instance, she cannot leave the house, then you know that there's a problem, there's a challenge, and the rest of my life or the rest of the time is going to be dedicated to helping this person overcome this challenge. So that guides your interactions with the person. You are more thoughtful, you are more patient, you are kinder. And every time the person wants to, and it's hard because sometimes, it's just sometimes, yes, it's the mental health showing up. Other times is the person, taking advantage of the fact that they have this
The
mental
mental
health
health problem.
to act out, So you have to recognize the difference, and know when to tell the person, be firm and say, you shouldn't do this because, or you should do this because. And it's a deeply, deeply committed, and it takes a village. It's not what one person is going to manage. So while they're seeking help, seeing the therapist, seeing the psychiatrist, at home, the support system is very, very crucial.
One day is in the UK, and she's the co-founder of Mentally Aware Nigeria. So our last
Oh,
part will basically be you telling me or telling us where to get help in Nigeria and in the UK. We're not saying in the whole world. So just tell us where to get help in Nigeria and in the UK if you just want to talk to someone that is affordable at least.
So affordable is relative, but
Mm.
let's leave that one. Okay, so in Nigeria, there are every state or every state every state has a federal hospital and a state hospital. In those two hospitals, there are psychiatry departments. So in Lagos, there's Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital in Yaba. There's LASUTH in Ikeja. Luth also has one it's also in Yaba. So these are government-owned facilities, and they are very, very affordable. Like their prices are ridiculously low. So you can definitely go there. There are also private facilities, which of course, like I said before, affordable is relative. There's Tranquil and Quest in Lekki. There's the Retreat in Ikorodu, and a couple other ones around. There are also NGOs that sort of help with the bulk of the work. Like I said, in Nigeria, we don't have enough psychiatrists. We have just like 192 or so at last count. So there are a couple of NGOs that take up the job. We have Mentally Aware Nigeria Initiative, where I work. We have She Writes Woman, Psych Bubble. All of them, as pronounced, can be found on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So you can always send them a DM or call their hotline numbers, which is usually on all their pages. So you can visit their websites or visit their social media handles and check them out. Mentally Aware NG, She Writes Woman, Psych Bubble, NG. There's Mind Haven, which is a private psychotherapy firm. And then I think that's all for. So I lived in Lagos, so that's why I mentioned all the ones pertaining to Lagos. In Benin, you can go to either UBTH or Federal Neuropsychiatry or SELU. In Abeokuta, you can either go to FMC or go to Aro, the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital in Aro, which is like the biggest in Nigeria and one of the best that we have. Outside Nigeria, you said UK. UK, well, government has a helpline. Government has a helpline that you can call if you don't want to go to the hospital. There's the NHS. All you have to do is see your GP, and they will arrange an appointment for you if they think you need to see a psychiatrist. But that there are so many levels before you even get to see a psychiatrist. There are therapists, there are occupational therapists. If you call them on the phone and you don't want to go to the hospital, they'll come to your house.
Sick
oh,
Much
country.
enjoyment.
Ha!
So, so
Wow.
it's more fun
Thank
on
you.
this
It's
side.
okay. It's okay. Don't vex. It's okay.
And then
Thank
there
you
are
so
private
much.
firms too that you can go to here. I work at Signet, which is one of the private psychiatry firms here, although it's still a subsidiary of NHS, kind of. So, well, Nigeria, we have our work plenty.
It is well, oh. Thank you too so much.
Thank you for watching. My name is Elsie Godwin, and please do subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking the button below and also click the bell button so you get notified each time there is a new content. I assure you that will bring you amazing and enlightening conversation weekly on this channel. and you would definitely learn something. If there's a movie you want us to talk about, kindly reach out to me via social media. My Twitter handle is in the description box at Elsieisy, the same as Instagram. Tell me, let's talk about it, and let's have amazing conversations. Take care.